That's Hannah Cameron. The Melbourne-based musician is about to release her third album, Holding Pattern. Many of us were indeed in a holding pattern of sorts during the COVID lockdown. So we start out by asking Hannah how it all worked out for her.
As I'm telling you, you hurt my feelings.
I really had a good time.
Good on you.
I know that many people did not have a good time, and I feel kind of guilty that I had such a good time. But I feel like I got to write and practice during that period,
right?
Because Melbourne was so locked down. There was really. I was lucky because I had a job. I was teaching online, but in the time that I wasn't teaching, I was really just writing and practicing a lot of guitar. And that's basically the whole album came out of that period, and just about another album's worth as well. And so I really miss like having that time to just explore and practice. I haven't had that this last year or so. I have missed that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So tell me about your guitar playing and your practicing. I assume practicing at home is different than doing a lot of gigs and playing that way.
Yeah.
So
maybe
you elaborate
I think
there.
I think during that time I was learning a lot of different songs.
Yep.
That was my way, I think, of drowning out the existential dread of that time. Was just like I would pick a song. I sort of started writing a list of like every time that I heard a song that I wanted to learn, I would add it to the list, and I would wake up that morning and sort of look at the list and be like, okay, I guess today's going to be that song.
Right.
And I did other sort of practice as well, slightly more, like technical scales and stuff. But I think for me, I learn the most from learning songs and getting inside other people's playing in that way.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you said Backsliding was around the first song that you did, but the first song on the album is called Take the Blame. Why is that leading things off? Tell me how that got to be where it is.
You can't decide. I will happily oblige. Tell you I am just here for the ride. Sitting on the passenger side, backseat driving my own life.
I don't know. I find track orders are a tricky thing, but it sort of felt like, I don't know. It felt like for whatever reason, I asked a few other people for their thoughts on track order, and all of us landed, I think, on Backsliding. I mean, on Take the Blame being the first to start it. I think it sort of maybe feels appropriate in that it's a song about being really sort of feeling paralyzed by indecision and not wanting to make tough decisions, which is sort of a central theme of the album. And that song feels like maybe the song that sort of speaks to that the most clear.
Yeah. And what is the instrumentation there? Are there some kind of interesting horn-sounding thing?
Yeah.
I don't want to say what I think it is because I'll be wrong. You tell me instead.
Oh, you might be right. It's sax is what you're hearing.
It is a sax. Okay.
Yeah. It's a tenor sax. The outro we just got. His name's Julian Banks, the sax player, and we got him to play lots of kind of wild improvised, sounds over the end, and we sort of gave him the direction of just being as abrasive as possible.
Right.
Which is not his usual thing at all. He's got beautiful tone, and I feel
right.
kind of like bad that we were feeling a bit guilty of making him make these awful noises, but it was just like what he did was so perfect. We felt like, and in the middle of one of the verses, you might have noticed there's sort of like a bit of a weird noise, and that's something that he played that we grabbed from the outro, and we were trying to create a bit of a moment in that section, and that sort of was a happy accident.
Cool. Those are the best kind.
Yes.
Yeah. And when you say we, I assume you're talking about you and your producer Matt.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So tell me about him and how the two of you work together to make this stuff.
Yeah, well, it's the first time that we'd worked together. He's worked with a few friends, and that was sort of how we connected. He was recommended to me by a few people that I work with, and his process I really love because it's really focused on capturing the like live take of the band, and that being the kind of cornerstone for the rest of the production. So a lot of the decision making and the work happens in pre-production when we're rehearsing as a band, and then we tracked all of the band beds live at Woodstock Studios in Melbourne, and then the rest, there's there's overdubs like the sax and there's strings on a few of them, but for the most part, the sort of core, the essence of the songs is that like live band dynamic, I think.
Gotcha. So do you think there's anything that kind of ties the 10 songs of the album together for you in your own mind? Other than the fact they're all on that album?
Yeah, there was that. I think that baritone guitar is probably the common thread.
Right.
Which is what I wrote all of them on. So I think that the baritone and the band is probably the common thread, and the way that was the way that we worked on the songs as a band. Yeah.
And the band is what? Lee Fisher on drums, Luke Hodgson on bass, and Matt Dixon on pedal steel?
Yeah, well, Matt Dixon sort of was one of the session players who came in and did the overdubs later on, but the core band is Lee and Luke. So bass and drums, it's just trio.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're in the studio with those two guys, it's your album and your song, so obviously you're kind of the guy, but but is there much discussion about who's going to do what and how the sound ends up turning out? And then of course you got Matt in the mix as well.
Yeah, so I think most of that happens in pre-production. Matt Redlick, the producer, will sort of throw ideas at us, and particularly my parts are pretty carved out already and set in stone, and so he sort of gives direction to Lee and Luke, but they're also really incredible. It feels like sometimes they're like total mind readers, and we'll just start playing the song. There are a few songs where we probably started playing the song and what we played was basically what it ended up being, because they have really great instincts, I think.
I've seen that in action, and I'm not a musician myself. In fact, a friend of mine was up here last night with her guitar player, and they were just kind of jamming. And the musical communication, unspoken, was, it's like, how do they do that? So it must be very satisfying to have that happen and find people that you can work with like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible feeling. I feel really lucky.
Uh-huh. And are you doing things with the Paper Kites as well?
Yeah, so I'm just about, in a month or so, I'm going on tour with them.
Yeah.
Tour their Roadhouse album that's just come out.
Yep, I just spoke to, what's his name from the band?
Sam.
Yes, that's it.
Sam?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, did you? Oh, cool.
Yep.
So I'm doing that US tour with them, which is going to be in October, November, and then we're doing another one in Feb, March next year.
Right.
That's going to be really fun. Getting the gang back together.
Yeah. And did you play on the record as well, or you just? Yep.
Yeah. So I was on keys and percussion and backing vocals.
Yes. Yeah. So what happens when you go on tour? Do you take these guys, Lee and Luke, with you, or what's
on my tour? I do, like with the Paper Kite stuff. I'm
you're
just part of their band,
right?
When I'm touring, ideally it sort of depends on the room and the budget, but the dream is taking Lee and Luke with me. Sometimes I'll do solo if it's like a smaller show.
Right.
We just did Big Sound together as a trio, which was really fun.
Well, what happened there? Was it good?
Have you heard of Big Sound before?
I just heard of it. That's all I know.
Yeah. So Big Sound is sort of like Australia's South by Southwest
Gotcha.
vibe. So it's a conference and a festival. And you sort of, so we did a few showcases, and it's good. It's like a very chaotic, week of music and talking to people. Yeah.
I've been to South by Southwest, and last year I went to Americana Fest in Nashville, and that was exciting.
Oh, yeah, I've been to that.
Have you?
That's fun.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you consider yourself an Americana artist?
No, I went more as a punter. Well, I don't know. Americana is a loose definition
It
these
is pretty
days.
loose these days.
Like sometimes I'm like, maybe I am.
Yep,
Maybe I'm
yep.
more Americana than I am folk.
I think last
Yeah.
year, the first band that I saw when I went there last year was some English kind of indie rock band. So I was
Yeah.
like, hey, that's fine with me. Whatever.
Yeah,
They wore cowboy hats and they were all on their way. That's all you
Maybe
gotta
I
do.
just need a cowboy hat.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. And so is there any track that you want to particularly talk about out of the 10 that we haven't spoken on? Do you have a favorite or one that you think demands attention?
Oh, it's hard. It's sort of like trying to name a favorite child.
I
But,
know. Yeah.
I mean, I think one that I loved I guess like the story of or the how it came together was the Smells Like Leaving, which has Matt Dixon on steel and
Sunset in the rear view, wanna call you, wanna hear you, wanna send you a picture of the sky. But there's stop signs and dotted lines, there's days and hours to remind me of all the reasons why.
we recorded that live as a band and it was feeling really good, but it was sort of like there was just something missing. Matt Redlick and I both felt like, yeah, there was just something needed and we weren't quite sure what it was. And I had been recording around this time with the Paper Kites. And Matt Dixon also plays in sort of as a session player in that band.
Right.
And he was playing guitar and pedal steel in that band. And yeah, it just clicked. I was just like, oh my God, this song just needs Matt to play some pedal steel.
Right.
And so when we finished with the Paper Kites recording, and actually while we were there, we sort of had a little playthrough. We're all staying in the same house, which was very fun. And so I went into Matt's room and took the song, and he really was really into it in a beautiful way and played, just improvised over it. And I was like, that's it. That's what it needs. And then we went, when it was all finished with the Paper Kites, we went back to Melbourne and went to Matt. There's so many Matts in this story, but
I
went
know,
to Matt Redlick's
that's all right.
studio.
I'm with you.
Went to Matt Redlick's studio, and before we went to the studio, I had sort of made this video, which has ended up being the music video, which was sort of little vignettes from being on tour with Paper Kites over the years, and Matt Redlick really loved the video and felt like it suited the song, and so he said, let's play the video as Matt Dixon records.
Oh, I see. Yep.
With pedal steel.
Yep.
So it was sort of like reverse engineering it. And it just, I feel like now when I watch the video and hear the pedal steel, there is something really magical about it.
Yep.
It's sort of, it rises in all the right moments. And it was just an interesting process of making music that.
Yeah, because usually the video is inspired by the music. This is kind of back and forth.
A bit of a conversation.
Cool. Yeah, nice. All right.
Yeah,
excellent. Well, that's cool. All righty. Well, good luck with the release day of the 22nd.
Thank you.
Hope it all goes well. And are you going to plan on coming over to New Zealand anytime soon to play?
I would love to. I don't know if anyone in New Zealand knows who I am yet, but maybe once they've
we're working on it.
This or read this. So if you could expand my New Zealand following, then that would be great.
It's the least I could do. All righty. Very good. Well, thank you very much. Have a great day, and look forward to the record doing everything hopefully you want it to.
Thanks so much. Nice to meet you, Marty.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.